Hi, everybody. Dr. Lena Rodriguez, coming to you from the future, as I do. It's my special gift. Now, a few of you have sent me a video that's gone viral of a woman, 46-year-old woman, getting arrested in Queensland in a cafe for not being vaxxed, right? And people are outraged. And rightly so, this woman is being manhandled. But I grew up in Queensland. I left because it was a police state. Nothing's changed. The only thing that stands out to me in this video is it's a white woman, because this is how those same police treat Aboriginal people every day of the year. So I hope some of that outrage spreads a bit further. You know, as if it takes 5 police to arrest one woman. I mean, please spare me. I mean, it was always known as the Texas of Australia, right? Say no more. Okay, things to cover today. I want to cover the war between DeSantis and Trump. Also, last video I read on Ginny Thomas, the weird conspiratorial wife of Clarence, but I want to read on him today. Will he step down? And the idea of inherent contempt with all these people who are thumbing their noses at subpoenas. Raining subpoenas like confetti, but what's the point if they all go, no, not going? What is the point? I'll just turn up my sound a wee bit. Is that better, intrepid viewers? Now, the feud, which has escalated, DeSantis and Trump. It's ironic, isn't it, that DeSantis bent over backwards. Oh, there's a breeze. Bent over backwards to, you know, be Trump's acolyte. And now, because he wants to run for president, the Yeti can't bear him. So it's all out attacks. Roger Stone said he's fat, slow, and dumb. And I thought, oh, he's finally seeing the light about the Yeti. But no, he was referring to DeSantis. But anyway, let's have a look. I'll do one column for DeSantis and one for Trump. So, the feud between DeSantis and Trump, what can we learn here? Because this, I think, is actually a really important issue, because the Yeti isn't a team player. He doesn't get politics. He doesn't understand that he's even a Republican notionally. He doesn't get any of it. So he just sees it as a person who gets higher poll numbers than he does. So therefore he has to die. You know, it's this weird mindset. So let's have a look. Whoops, what fell out? Oh, someone's moving to safer waters. I'll just leave that on top. They'll need to. DeSantis versus Trump. DeSantis. The issue. Oh, it's a work in progress, you'd have to say. Right. So with the Six of Swords, this is the turbulence. And I think it represents slightly, well, very different things for each of them. For DeSantis, I think this is him trying to outrun being responsible for the ill health and the complete abrogation of public service responsibility in relation to the pandemic. And for Trump, I think it's trying to move out of the choppy waters, which is low attendance at rallies, of falling out with Fox, et cetera, et cetera. So they're both, as we speak, working out what their next moves are going to be. They get strategy cards. So DeSantis, defending, but he is on the top of the hill. He is more flexible with this card if you're learning tarot. It's having to defend on the run. So that's what he's doing. He's facing defeat if he doesn't get all this other stuff right. So he can't hope to have traction at a national level unless he does something more than he's doing to address the pandemic. He's going, I think, to start saying things to try and shore up the base, his base in Florida, and he's going to have some success in that. In other words, he's going to reinvent what's happening somehow as a positive. This is all in the short term. I'd put this as this whole reading at 0 to 3 months. Right? How this war is unfolding. Then we have the greedy king, who still has enormous reach and influence with the world card here, and he's strategizing. So he's constantly channeling his Roy Cohn to keep these battles going. He loves a battle, right? And so he's fueled by a raw resentment of DeSantis's popularity. He's not a complex creature, let's face it, right? So he's going to use everything he has in his arsenal to attack and defeat DeSantis. But with these cards here, I think he's going, the Yeti that is going to have bigger fish to fry, and I think DeSantis is going to get the upper hand. Oh, one of my cards flew away. I'll have to have a look. Excuse me, dear ones. What was it? Oh. The Three of Swords. This is saying to me no one wins from these sort of skirmishes and stuff. Certainly not the American people. Right? So now I want to know what's going to happen with Clarence Thomas. And I'll put the link up for you. I was shocked, as I so often am, about American law. And when people become judges in America, this is according to Glenn Kushner, who presumably does know, there's a clause that says you need to recuse yourself if you or a spouse or a close relative stands to benefit from a decision you might make. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. It's fairly standard in legal circles, but it doesn't apply to SCOTUS judges. They have no ethics framework. This is from Glenn Kushner, not from me. What? So technically, it doesn't matter if she goes and blows up the White House, he doesn't have to recuse himself or step down. So it then becomes a moral question. Will he do it? Dare we ask for an ethical person? Not that optimistic. So will it all become, because he's under a barrage of criticism. So, and he dissents, he's the one. These decisions are made 8-1, you know, and he's the one. Why? Because out of all the women in America, he elected to marry, you know, their generation's version of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, there's no accounting for taste. And she is willful and active. So will there be pressure? No, not pressure. Will the pressure work? Will Clarence Thomas recuse or resign? Anything that starts with re would be good. Recuse or resign. Will he recuse or resign? Okay. Clarence. Oh, no. Well, For whatever reason, she's the center of his world. Here's the Queen of Pentacles. She controls the marriage and she controls everything in his world. Ooh. He's a complete innocent in the sense he must have been one of those guys who was really smart and got through law school and all of that, but not much experience in the real world, because I think this is the Fool at its most naive. And he's naive in the sense that he's sort of, I'm going to have to make a plan. The cards are flying. He's sort of thinking, oh, that's just Ginny. It's not me. He's naive. The world is watching this because yet again, the rest of the world is gobsmacked every time there's a revelation about how the American democratic system allegedly works and doesn't. So this is the world looking on. But again, reinforced, he is junior to her senior. Right? Smart guy, but just doesn't get how the world works. He really doesn't get it. Wow. Disappointing, as always, with these people. So, the question on everybody's lips, including ours, is what's going to happen? Now, we were massively disappointed and still are, because Bannon got picked up legally, but got a judge who said, oh, we'll hear the case next July. Well, you may as well have said, we'll hear it in 2046. I'm sorry, we're in an accelerated time. There's a compressed timeline for all this stuff. They needed to set an example. They trusted the Justice Department, and he got the judge who only did that, you'd have to say, because he was somewhat sympathetic. The others have managed at different levels of courts to act quite quickly on things, in legal terms, quite quickly. And to set it as July, I think should be regarded as an act of sedition in itself. But my question here today is, now there's going to be a whole lot of them. We've got Mark Meadows, we've got all that mob, plus we've got Ivanka and Don Jr. and everyone. They are not going to turn up. They're not even going to plead the fifth, I think, because they're not going to turn up. So what's going to happen, intrepid viewers? In fairness, this isn't the Dems' problem. This is the DOJ's problem. They can recommend them for contempt, but there's got to be action. You know, it's like saying to the 2-year-old, you know, who misbehaves, you're not going to go to the carnival next year. You know, it's just an abstract nonsense. They've got to get more meat on the bones here. What is going to happen? So will they go for inherent contempt? I didn't know, and I think it's worth looking at. Glenn Kushner, a few months ago, he did a video on the difference between inherent contempt and criminal contempt. So I'm not going to spend my brain power trying to distinguish those two. So I'm just calling it inherent contempt. And the Dems being really polite as always. Oh, you know. Oh. Come on, DOJ, what are you going to do about all these people who refuse to comply with subpoenas? Are we going to see action? Oh, they're thinking about it. Oh, God. Oh, someday, one day, you know, right? Okay. Here they are. I think they've got a dilemma. How do they handle people who are serving in Congress? Because apart from maybe one case 100 years ago or something, they should have thought about this a year ago. slow and steady. Last card I wanted to see. We're going to do this the right way, the methodical way, the legal way. Oh, Jesus. Three of Pentacles, this is under their decision making. They are taking more points of view on board. They're trying to show a bit of light in the darkness. This is also higher learning. This is, you know, fine legal minds working on it, etc., but they need results. The outcome was the King of Wands, who's a very fair judge. So at best, the best spin I could put on this is, oh, they might do that. They might collectivize them and put them in front of a judge who'll say, I'll get back to you next week. That could happen. Or are they going to do it one at a time? In which case, you know, the experiment in American democracy that's 400 years old hasn't got the time to wait, you know, like, not happy. Oh, did you see? Inevitably, now they're going after Ivanka, and I'm going to read in a minute on Ivanka and Jared. The Democrats are terrible. They go after children. Well, firstly, they're not children. They're in early middle age. Secondly, you, the Yeti, made her a senior government advisor. So she's been questioned as a senior government advisor. You can't have it both ways. Well, obviously you can, but really. Yeah. So we're all curious what will happen with Ivanka. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone. I said 3 years ago, if not 4 years ago, she'd eventually turn on her father. But I still don't know that we're there yet. So we haven't heard anything about Jared for ages. Let's have a quick look at Jared and then we'll look at Ivanka. Jared, because he hasn't been mentioned in this particular round of stuff. But we know they've been looking at him for quite some time. So Jared. Okay. Oh, the World card keeps turning up today. Oh, looky. Oh. Now, while everyone's looking at Don Jr. and Ivanka, even Eric, it's gone quiet, like I said, on Jared, but I think they're really, really seriously going to get stuck into him. This is global in another sense. Like tarot cards have layers of meaning that are relevant in different contexts for different questions. And so this is different again. This is, I think, the international deals. I think going back to Putin and 2015, when they were having all those secret meetings in Trump Tower, you remember that? And I had a dream, viewers. And I just told Linda G this morning. In the dream, Putin said, Linda's right. I helped him get elected. And I think at the end of the day, it was Jared who made those connections because they were so naive, as well as Don Jr. But Jared, you know, presented better. It was obvious to anyone meeting Don Jr. in 2015 or 16 that this guy was just a mini version of his father, thick as a brick, probably substance abuse issues, entertainment only, on display, complete ignorance of other countries. He just didn't have the wherewithal, whereas Jared looked like he did, even though I don't think he's any brighter than the Trumps, which is why he married the beloved, right? that connection as the power couple at that time. But here comes, once the stuff on Jared starts legally, it's going to fly like the wind. It's going to be one of the quicker things that I think will come, not this minute, maybe even next year, but once it starts, that's the one that's going to do the most damage, because the Hierophant, what's left of law and order, and the Tower. And I think it's Trump Tower. I do, in every way. Oh my. So Jared, with the voice of a 9-year-old girl, what a ridiculous creature. And I never fail to mention slumlord in New Jersey. He owns thousands of properties and he's notorious about not maintaining those properties. And then when property values go up in an area, he evicts long-term tenants and, you know, all of that. So he's the worst of landlords. I think slumlords, after they've been warned and cautioned that no, you do have to fix the mold in your apartments, no, you do have to do something about the fire escapes that are unsafe, no, you do have to, after they've been told a few dozen times, you know what, no jail, make them live in one of their apartments for a year, please. Okay, Ivanka herself. We know all this is coming down, so I want to look at how she's feeling. How's she feeling and what does she think is her way forward? Going after his children. They're talking about his demon spawn. They are not children. Ivanka, what are you going to do? Yes. Look, there'll come a time when she doesn't have a choice. Right. So here we go. This is her. It sort of even looks like her in a way. So she's a Scorpio. She holds the cards close to her chest. She knows she was linked to the devil. That is her legacy from her father, chained. But remember, they can take off the chains. This could be Ivanka and Jared or Ivanka and Don Jr. But we're looking at just Ivanka for now. This is the offer that she has to decide about, because she is seriously in the wars. She's ruthless by nature too. Don't for 1 minute think she's the one that's been hard done by. So she is the ruthless one who other people are walking away from. So her choices become limited as she is further embattled. And she's going to have to take this cup to keep her little enhanced buttocks out of jail. She is, if she wants to raise their children and she wants to avoid the orange jumpsuit, she's going to have to give him up. Now, this is often a card of release and joy and magnificent, except if it's in a bad reading, which this is, which means a lot of emotion is going into this, a lot of tears being shed, right? At the end of the day, she is a daddy's girl. She would rather not go down this route, but you better believe it. If it comes to her or him, she'll make that decision. Oh, wow. And I think her mother of dragons, Ivana, is in her ear, and I think that's the advice Ivana has given her. My darling, survival. You must survive. Here's the mad kid. She would not. All right, everyone, I have to go because I have to get ready for a collaboration. It's on at 8 p.m. in a minute, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and it's on Jen Lynn's channel. So please go over there, and I'll be there with Johnny and Becca, and we always have a fabulous time. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back in a flash. Bye.